Welcome back to the class, guys, and I hope you guys are doing pretty good. This is going to be the day 22 of our 90 days SDET interview preparation series on YouTube. Now, before I get started with today's class, I want to talk about something. Yesterday, I got a text from one of the subscriber, and she said that, Jatin, I feel really behind in the entire journey of SDET, or, I have been doing manual testing for a very long period of time. I did try to learn automation and all, but somewhere down the lane, I feel that I lack something. That's the whole thing that she told me. And I want everyone's attention over here because the thing is, see, if you observe your world, okay, or people around you and all, everyone, I'm not just gonna say many or few, no, everyone is distracted, okay? Everyone is addicted to something. So the thing over here is, if you look at the analytics of this particular series itself, over here, you'll notice that people start with a lot of enthusiasm. If you look carefully, the day one video over here was like around 8,500 views. Day one. Day two video, 3,800. So, assuming that 8,500 people actually watched this particular video, next day it automatically dropped by 50%. So, if most of you guys are going to study for automation, okay, around 50% of the people who are watching this particular series are, they're not even your competition because they're not consistent. And look carefully over here that from day 3 onwards, it drops to again 2,000, then 2,000, 2,000, 1,800. So what you observe over here is that people, like with whom you're trying to compare yourself, they're not even your competition. Your competition is just yourself. And the thing over here is, all you need to do is just be consistent. You know that the lecture is going to be released at 10. And all you had to do was just watch and study with me. So, even if you have seen the entire series, I literally try to spoon feed you guys. Okay? And yet, the main issue of the people is just the consistency. Are you getting the point? So never ever feel that you are behind in your life because all your competition are literally distracted. Okay? You might be watching this particular video right now, but in just 10-15 minutes, you'll start watching some Instagram reel or you're going to click on some other video, okay, which you're going to find more engaging. Okay? So here's the thing, guys. You are your only competitor, okay? And you are your worst enemy also. If you're not going to be able to take care of your thought, if you're not going to be able to control where you're putting your focus, it's going to be a very difficult journey. Trust me on that. So please make sure, guys, learn to focus on things that matters. Now, in today's class, guys, we will be focusing on some important interview questions, okay? And technically, I'll be focusing more on the API testing today. And it's going to be a bit of a theoretical part, but it's going to be something which is going to help you get a solid fundamentals, okay? Now, over here, guys, the first question that we will be discussing, how to test rate limiting and rate throttling. Now, before we get started with testing rate limiting as well as rate throttling for an API, you need to understand what exactly these two terms means. A lot of time in interview, they will ask this particular question, what is rate limiting and rate throttling? Take a moment, think about it. Don't read my answers, okay? You first, try to answer it by yourself. What do you mean by rate limiting and rate throttling? So, understand this thing, guys. Let's say we have a backend server, okay? This is my backend application, okay? And over here, there are different endpoints and we have one client. Now, this client, guys, can be anything. It can be Postman, it can be your rest assured, it can be the UI, the browser, okay? So the main thing over here, guys, is when we are talking about rate limiting is basically a technique where server allows only fixed number of requests per time window. Example, only 100 requests per minute. So from one client, okay, from one client, I can only make 100 requests, okay, per minute. And this particular number, guys, is technically going to be designed by your business, okay, that how many requests we need to process for one particular client, okay. What is going to happen for 101 request? The 101 request over here, guys, is going to be blocked. It will not be processed, okay. Technically, you will be getting a status code called 429, okay. So this particular status code is really important. You need to remember it off. 429 status code is what you're going to get. Now, let's read over here. Rate limiting is basically a technique where a server allows only a fixed number of requests per window. Example, 100 requests per minute. Once the limit is exceeded, the browser requests are blocked or rejected. Okay? Browser requests are blocked or rejected. Now, you guys will be thinking, Acha Jatin, where exactly this rate limiting is going to come into picture? You know, let's say there is a application which allows you to send messages, okay. For example, let's say I want to send WhatsApp notifications automatically, or one more easy service would be OTP service, okay. Now based on the plan whatever I have, okay, the company who technically offers me to send OTPs, okay, would have given me some quota. Quota means how many SMS or how many notifications I can send in a day or I can send in a minute. That's basically what you call as your rate limiting. If I'm going to try to send more notifications, okay, then probably I will be getting a message like quota exceeded and probably I need to update my plan. Okay. So this is a rate limiting one of the use case over there. Now guys, when we are talking about throttling is also closely related to rate limiting, but instead of blocking the request, we try to slow down. So let's assume that I am allowed to send 100 requests, okay. For 100 requests, the speed is going to be, let's say, 50 milliseconds, okay. If I am going to send the 101 request, okay, because we are trying to reduce the speed now, okay, it is going to become 100 milliseconds. If I'm going to send more requests, let's say 200 requests, then the speed is going to drop to, let's say, 300 milliseconds. The response time is going to be 300 milliseconds, so on and so forth. So we do process the request, is just that the speed at which the response is going to come is going to be very slow. Okay. So the server actually processes the request slowly compared to how it was proceeding or processing it before. Okay. So throttling is closely related. Instead of hard blocking the request, the server slows down the response when the usage approaches or crosses a threshold. Now, why do we need it? What is the whole purpose of having your rate limiting and throttling? It basically ensures that the server correctly enforces the usage policy. So remember, I gave you the example that we are going to have some business policies, okay, how exactly the request needs to be processed for any particular client. Okay, that's what basically rate limiting and rate throttling offers us. And it also prevents abuse or overload. So the thing is, if I'm not going to have this rate limiting or throttling, Apparently, there can be scenarios where I will get hell lot of requests on my server. Okay, and because of that, there is going to be heavy load on my server. Okay, so we want to prevent the abuse of this backend services. Verifies correct HTTP status code and headers are returned. So if you are going to set rate limiting, you will end up getting 429 too many requests. Confirms that legitimate clients can resume request after the window resets. Okay, the quota level that we can set. Protects API infrastructure in production from DDoS or runaway clients. This is important. Runaway clients are basically the clients, they just try to, like hit your backend servers again and again with unnecessary requests. Okay. And technically, they don't really add value into your business revenue. And DDoS is also like a cyber attack where you get a lot of requests on your backend server, because of which your backend application can be down. So in order to prevent all these things, you need to have rate limiting and throttling. Okay. I want you guys to pause this particular video for a moment, and I want you guys to read these 6-7 points quickly. Okay. I hope you have gone through it. Now, let's scroll down and let's try to understand how exactly we will be performing this stuff in Rest Assured. Now, the thing over here now, guys, it's pretty simple. Like you're just going to make your request, but apparently you're just going to put it inside a loop. Okay. So over here, you'll notice that I'm having a for loop, and this particular loop runs like 100 times. Okay. Not 100 times. It's going to run 101 time because we are going to start from 0. Okay. So over here, guys, what we want is we will keep on making the API request, okay, again and again, and it's going to happen very quickly because we have kept it inside a loop. So it's technically going to be executed in milliseconds. So these requests will be made, and we will check, okay, for the 100th request, are we getting 429 status code or not? Because if we are going to get a 429 status code, it basically means that after 100 requests, okay, your server is not going to process any request from your end. Okay, this is the whole stuff. So over here, 100 request is going to be processed, but for 101 request, you will end up getting 429 status code. Okay, and over here in the header, there should be an information, a retry after, okay, whatever the time you are going to be setting over there. After how much time we should be retrying the request. Okay. So this is a very simple way of performing your rate limiting in Rest Assured. Okay, I hope you have understood this particular question. This particular question has been asked a lot of time in your interview. Okay, they technically don't tell you to write the code and all, but the thing is, you should be aware how exactly you will be doing it. There are many ways to do it. This is one of the simplest way to do this particular stuff. So at least remember one of the approach for your interview. I hope this particular part is clear to everyone. Can we move on to the next question now? Now, the next question over here is how to check timeout in Rest Assured. Okay. Now, this is again a commonly asked question with respect to Rest Assured. I believe this particular question was asked for the company Deloitte. And before we get started with how you're going to check your timeout in Rest Assured, you need to first understand what exactly are timeout. Okay. So timeout in API basically controls how long your HTTP client can be your Postman, your entire Rest Assured, okay, code, whatever, waits before giving up on the request. So if from your client, okay, you are making a request to the server, how long your client needs to wait for that particular connection to get established, that's what you call as a timeout. Now, The thing is, there are going to be two important kind of timeouts that you should always be aware of. One is basically the connection timeout, and the second one is basically socket timeout. Okay, people sometimes they don't even know what is the difference between connection timeout and socket timeout, and this is a very simple interview question. What is connection timeout? How long to wait to establish a TCP connection to the server? So, from your code, how much time your rest assured needs to wait for the connection to be established with the backend server is basically what you call as a connection timeout. How much time it is going to take for your postman, for your rest assured code to establish that particular connection with the server. Okay. The second over here is the socket timeout. How long to wait for the data after the connection is established? This is basically called as read timeout. The thing over here is, if you are going to make a request to the server after the connection has been established, how long your code, your client needs to wait to get the data back from the server. That's basically what you call as a socket timeout. Okay, take a moment, read this much part over here. A timeout in API testing basically controls how long the HTTP client waits before giving up on a request. There are going to be two kinds of your timeout. One is basically the connection timeout, and the second one is going to be your socket timeout. Connection timeout basically talks about how much time it is going to take for your client to establish the connection with the server, how much time is going to take. And the socket timeout is basically talks about how much time generally takes for your server to send the data back to the client. Okay, that's basically your socket timeout. Now, why do we need to check for timeouts in our API test? Okay, so basically, it validates the system SLA, ensuring API meets the response time contract. Okay. So whenever you're checking for your system SLA, whether we are getting the response on proper time or not, for that you will be checking both the connection as well as the socket timeout. It also basically helps you in catching the performance issue in your early CI pipelines. Okay, so the thing over here is, if you want to check for your performance issues of your backend servers and all those things, you will be checking for the connection timeout as well as the socket timeout. And it also helps to confirm the correct behavior when the infrastructure is slow or it is under load. Okay. So in order to check whether your backend servers are working properly in a very overloaded infrastructure, or your infrastructure is a bit slow. Okay, you want to check whether even in less resources you're getting the data properly and on time. That's the reason you want to use and you want to check for timeouts. The code over here is pretty simple over here, guys. The thing over here is you will be configuring your rest assured. So you will be using the rest assured config method, and you will be using the HTTP client, and you're going to set two params. One is going to be the HTTP connection timeout, and we are telling that the connection timeout, the time it requires to establish the connection to the server, should be 3 seconds. All right. And socket timeout basically talks about that I should be getting the data from the server, okay, in a time of 3000, that is 3000 milliseconds, that or 3 seconds. So set params HTTP connection dot timeout, basically the maximum time allowed, okay, is the maximum time that we are allowing to establish the connection to the server. Okay, and set params HTTP dot socket timeout is the maximum time allowed to wait for the server response after the connection is established. Okay, so this is going to be the waiting time. So I hope you have understood both of these two questions properly. Okay, so please make sure that you practice and like go and revisit these two questions again. So next time when they ask in your interview related to rate limiting or throttling or timeout, you are able to answer them properly. So that's it. That's it for this particular video. Now I'm going to see you guys in the next one. Don't forget to mark your attendance. And guys, in case if you have faced any interviews recently, please share your interview questions with me over LinkedIn. Now I'm going to see you guys in the next one. Till then, take care. Bye bye.